Have you ever thought about ancient Egypt? What do you think about? Pyramids, sphinxes, pharaohs? How about forbidden knowledge? Did you know that a lot of artifacts, tombs, and other ruins have been discovered in Egypt? With each discovery, we learn more about Egyptians. Unfortunately, there are many things that modern science cannot explain. A lot of experts refuse to even acknowledge those things. But what if there's more to Egypt than just pyramids and pharaohs? Today, let's look at the most cursed place in Egypt. This horror story takes us back to the heart of the Egyptian desert, where time seems to stand still, and the whisper of forgotten rituals dances on the wind. Here, beneath centuries of sand and silence, lies a pyramid that has been erased from history. No map shows its location. No papyrus mentions its name. The few who dared speak of it called it the Black Pyramid, an ancient structure so cursed that even the gods themselves turn their eyes away from it. Our story begins in the year 1923, when a small expedition led by Professor Marcus Gray, an ambitious British archaeologist, arrived in a remote part of Egypt. For years he had chased a legend passed down by the Bedouin tribes. Through generations, a tale of a lost pyramid, built not by a pharaoh of light, but by one who worshipped something darker, something that slumbers beneath the sands of time. Locals refused to guide him, trembling at the very mention of the pyramid, their whispered prayers echoing his own name. But Marcus, a man of science, did not believe in curses. With his team of 6, including his beloved daughter Clara, a brilliant Egyptologist in her own right, he ventured into the unforgiving desert. For weeks they battled the relentless sun and the shifting sands, until finally, as if the desert itself had conspired against them, they unearthed a massive black stone doorway. It was adorned with terrifying carvings that sent shivers down their spines. Snakes with human eyes staring back at them, stars plummeting from the sky, and a pharaoh whose face had been deliberately scratched out in every depiction. Around the doorway, warning glyphs depicted creatures with the heads of falcons and bodies of baboons tearing apart human souls. The sight was enough to make even the most seasoned member of the team, Henner, question their sanity. Was this a place they should have left undisturbed? That night, as the wind howled like a mournful cry, the camels refused to stay near the site, their instincts screaming at them to flee. But Marcus, driven by his insatiable thirst for discovery, ignored the omens and decided to enter the pyramid. As they descended deeper into its belly, the air grew thick and dry, heavy with the scent of decay and dust undisturbed for thousands of years. The walls were covered in hieroglyphs that told of a forgotten pharaoh and his obsession with the netherworld. Strange symbols not seen in any other Egyptian tomb adorned the walls, and at the center they found a chamber that made their blood run cold. Inside there stood a multitude of statues, each one depicting people frozen in terror, their mouths open in a silent scream. But it was the 5th statue that truly horrified them. It was a twisted mockery of the pharaoh himself, his face contorted in a silent scream, body emaciated, eyes bulging and limbs twisted at unnatural angles. Before the statue was a pool of stagnant water, its surface reflecting the distorted image of the tormented pharaoh. And in the middle of the room, pulsating slightly, as if alive, sat a sarcophagus made of black obsidian. It was a material not commonly used by the Egyptians, and seemed almost alien in its sleek, dark grandeur. Clara, her voice trembling, urged her father to stop, to turn back before it was too late. She could feel the evil emanating from the pyramid, seeping into their bones. But Marcus, entranced by the mysteries surrounding the pyramid, pressed on. Ignoring his daughter's pleas, he approached the sarcophagus, his hand hovering over its smooth surface. Then, summoning all his strength, he threw open its lid. Inside was no mummy, only a deep pit that yawned before them, descending into an inky blackness. And from that abyss, they heard a sound that chilled them to the core, a sound like the breath of a living creature. Startled, they stumbled back. Marcus, his face drained of color, quickly closed the coffin lid, sealing away whatever nightmare resided within. But the sound continued, growing louder, more insistent. That night, one of the team members vanished. His tent was empty, his belongings scattered around, as if he'd been in a hurry. The next morning, the rest of the team gathered around a campfire, their faces drawn and haggard. They searched for their missing companion, calling his name until their voices were hoarse, but only the wind answered them, rustling through the dry leaves like a specter. And then, to their horror, they found another member of the team wandering the desert. His eyes burned white and vacant, his movements mechanical and uncoordinated. He murmured in a dead language, his words unintelligible, but his tone frantic and fearful. The few coherent words that escaped his lips sent shivers down their spines. "Run! Don't look back, the shadows." He kept repeating these words until he collapsed, his eyes staring blankly at the sky. Clara, shaken to her core, pleaded with her father to leave, to flee while they still could. She knew, with a certainty that defied logic, that the pyramid was a gateway to something sinister, something that was now preying on their minds. She felt the presence of the entity growing stronger, corrupting her father's mind. But Marcus, obsessed with understanding the enigma of the Black Pyramid, remained resolute. Each day that passed, the atmosphere grew heavier, the shadows longer and more menacing, as if the pyramid itself was closing in on them. Sleep offered no escape. Each night, Clara was visited by visions that shook her to the core. She saw shadows crawling on the walls of her tent, twisting and contorting into monstrous shapes. She heard whispers in the darkness, voices speaking in tongues that echoed the madness of the desert wind, and always looming over her, hidden beneath layers of cloth, was a figure with a crown of thorns, a symbol of both suffering and power. The figure would lean closer, its face never fully revealed, and whisper in a voice that resonated deep within her soul, "You are all already dead." They tried to flee, but the desert that had guided them to the pyramid now seemed to mock their escape. The familiar landmarks had vanished. The sun rose in the wrong direction, and time moved erratically, stretching minutes into hours, and hours into days. Their footsteps also seemed to vanish behind them, leaving them stranded in a timeless void. In the end, it was as if the desert itself had claimed them, swallowing their cries for help and leaving not a trace of their existence behind. Only Clara survived. Days later, a caravan stumbled upon her, half buried in sand, clutching a small stone that bore the name of the long-forgotten Pharaoh, Akhmenat, the king of the forgotten. Her eyes stared vacantly at the sky, devoid of the light of life. When found, she uttered only one final sentence, her voice barely a whisper. It wasn't a tomb. It was a prison. Since then, no one has found the Black Pyramid again, but some say that during violent sandstorms, a shadowy outline appears in the distance, a dark triangle rising out of the dunes. If you were to venture too close, you might hear the sound that chilled the explorers to the bone, the steady, rhythmic breathing of something ancient and malevolent, a reminder that some secrets are best left buried beneath the sands of time. So, what do you think about the story? Let us know your thoughts. Also, don't forget to subscribe for more videos. Thanks for watching.